What is going on, guys? If you clicked on this video, you probably want to know how to get that nostalgic vintage film look on your footage. And today I'm going to show you how I get this look through a software called Dehancer. So Dehancer is a film emulation software, and what this means is you can emulate some of the same aspects that you would find on vintage film cameras on your digital footage with whatever camera you're using right now. It just makes it really easy to create that film look, and we will get into that more here in a second, but a huge thanks to Dehancer for giving me a free license to test this video out. I am not being told what to say. This is an honest review, so at the end I will give you my pros and cons that I have with Dehancer. But first, I'm going to show you how I create the film vintage look on some sports footage that I took earlier this year from track and that you saw in the intro. So let's go ahead and get right into it. Alright, so the first thing I did is I selected a clip that I liked, and I went ahead and found a spot along that clip right here that I want to grade from. And so we're going to start right there and go ahead and go over to our color tab. The first thing I want to say is obviously Davinci is a really good color grading software, but for this demonstration I am going to only use the built-in effects on Dehancer, and so we're going to do a one node structure and not even use the built-in Davinci effects. I know that there are a lot of good things you can do, a lot of good ways to tweak the colors, the contrast, all of that, exposure. We're going to do it just from the Dehancer plugin, just so I can show you guys how powerful this plugin really is, and let's go ahead and get right into it. So obviously this does not look good. Starting from that to that, there's not really a whole lot going on other than a straight turquoise thing. So the first thing I want to do is go ahead and close all of these tabs, and to do that I hit Option and then clicked on the tab itself to go ahead and close them all. But I'm just going to go through each one of these and make sure that I turn off all the effects so I can see what our base image looks like. A lot of these do come enabled when you drag the effect, which is what you will find over here. Just drag it onto a node, and that's kind of how you get going, but a lot of these will come enabled right off the get-go. So I'm going to go ahead and turn all of these off just to see what our base image is and get going from there. Alright, cool. Now that they're all off, we're going to go ahead and start with a basic conversion. So a cool thing with Dehancer is you can go in and choose your camera, and even if your camera is not on this list, they also have these Rec 709, Rec 2020, Apple Gamma, so if you shoot like on your phone, and Apple Log, you can use that one, and just all these different options. I did shoot an S-Log3 on a Sony A7S III, so I just click Sony, go down here to A7S III, and then I'm going to go down to S-Log3 Gamut Cine. So as you can see, that log to Rec 709 conversion is already looking very good, much better than it looks in log. So that is just the first thing that we're going to do, and then we're going to go ahead and look at our exposure. So this is kind of like your base adjustment layer, if you want to call them layers. This is going to be your base adjustment where you just go from log to Rec 709 and then make some slight exposure adjustments. So I'm going to bring this exposure down just a little bit. The sky is a little bit overexposed, and I don't like that, so I'm going to bring it down just a little bit. And then we're going to also bring the temperature just a little bit warmer because I want to go for that little bit nostalgic look, and I like having a little bit of a warmer picture as opposed to cooler. And so that's all we're going to mess with there. This is tint. You can go green, purple. I'm not going to mess with that, and I'm not going to mess with the differenge either. If we enable that, I'm not going to mess with that either. So that's all we're going to do on this first slide. I am going to bring that, actually I'm going to bring it up a little bit. Initially I was going to bring it down, but we're going to bring it up just a smidge. So next we're going to go on to the film profile. So a really cool thing about Dehancer is they have so many film profiles. I couldn't even tell you what all of these profiles are because I haven't even heard of half of them before, but they have really popular ones such as the Kodak Portra 400, which is a popular one that a lot of people use. Make sure you enable it, because if you don't click enabled, you won't be able to see the effect. But as you see right there, that is the Portra 400. Another one I've seen a lot of people use is the Vision 3 250D. and that one looks pretty good. I don't prefer as much turquoise, and so what you can do is kind of lower or raise this. The other day when I was kind of messing around with this, I found that I really like the Cine Still 800T look. It's a little bit more of a magenta look, but I do prefer this to the other ones. And so as you can see with it off right there, before, after, before, after. So I'm already liking how those reds look. Before I enabled this, it's a little bit oversaturated for what would be a vintage look and just looks really digital. And so I think this Cine Still 800T is a really nice effect. You can do push or pull, and so what that'll do is that'll like bring your highlights down and kind of make the thing darker or make everything kind of brighter. And so I am going to push this a little bit darker just to save some of that color in those highlights right there. Moving on though, we're going to go to the film developer. So this is really good, and it allows you to be able to add some of that contrast and color back in that was lost when we turned on our film. So as you can see, a lot of the color in the stands, in the people, and the shirt here lose a lot of that contrast. And so going down here and being able to add some of that contrast, add some of that color back in, just allows you to really tweak. Obviously, I don't want to add a crazy amount because we're still kind of going for that nostalgic look. And so I do want to add just a little bit back in, and then you can kind of see the before and after. I like the added contrast because it just makes it look a little bit more pleasing to the eye, in my opinion. And you can do gamma correction if you want to bring that up or down. And I also want to draw your attention to the scopes down here. These are also good tools for using, being able to see what's clipping, or if your shadows down here are clipping. And so far, it looks pretty good, but we are far from being done on this clip. So I'm going to go ahead and move down to film compression. Down here we have a lot of different things you can use, and these kind of just help you adjust what effect that the film has on your footage. And so say I want to bring that all the way down, it's going to make my highlights a little bit brighter, the impact, and if I want to bring it up, it'll kind of flatten out those highlights. And so I do want to bring that up a little bit, not a ton, or I guess down, but that'll bring my highlights back up. And then I'm going to adjust my white point ever so slightly up. The tonal range, this, as you can see, it's kind of affecting the back half of our image. It's making some of those whites a little bit darker when I bring this to the right. And so I kind of like how that's looking. I'm going to bring it down a little bit because I don't want to distract away too much from our subject who's right here. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the expand tab. So this tab is really cool because it will allow you to adjust how your image looks in the blacks and in the whites. And so like right here in his pants, it's a really dark shadow. And so by bringing that up, make sure we enable it, you can increase or decrease how dark you want that to be. And so another cool feature of Dehancer is here at the bottom, we'll go through all these here in a minute, but here at the bottom you have the clipping indication. And so this comes really handy for this tab especially because if you bring your blacks maybe too far down and they start clipping, which you will see over here on the waveform as well, then that is definitely not what you want because you start to lose all the detail. And so it's cool because you can do this while you're messing with the black point and white point, and it'll really help you to make sure you fine-tune your image without blowing out the highlights like I did just there. So pretty cool. I'm going to bring this up a little bit because I want my highlights to be a little bit higher. They were just a bit dark, and it'll allow me to know where those are at without necessarily clipping. I don't mind if a few of these clip in here in the darkest shadows because in real life, a lot of times in the dark shadows, you're not going to be able to see much detail just because it is almost completely black. And so you can see without that enabled, with it enabled, it just adds another dimension to your color grading process. So moving down into the print, this is where you can pick a certain print that it would physically be on, kind of how it would look if you printed it. And so if I click the Kodak Endura, you can see the effect that it has right away. I'm going to go ahead and turn this clipping indication off just so we can see what's going on here, but you can see it makes it quite a bit darker, and I'm not really a huge fan of that. You can turn the exposure down if you would like, or up. So if I turn it up, it has a slight effect, but as you can see, there's just a lot of different things you can click on here. You can try the Cineon film log, Fuji film print, a lot of different things. I don't know a whole lot about a lot of these, so I'm not really going to mess with it too much because I kind of like how our image is looking right away. I will go ahead and add a normal Rec 709 conversion LUT just so we can see. This is Sony's Rec 709 LUT. I'm going to go ahead and add that. This is what a Rec 709 conversion would be. As you can see, I did overexpose this clip slightly when I was shooting, so that is why it's a little bit bright, but we went from that to this on our actual clip, which in my opinion looks quite a bit better than just the basic Rec 709 look. So moving along on our color grading process, you can change things like color density, make them a little bit more dense, make them a little bit more vibrant. So I'm going to do that just a little bit. Tonal contrast, you can bring this up or down and kind of increase the contrast a little bit more than you would be able to on the just strict contrast tab. And then you can change your exposure. I'm going to bring that up just a bit. So moving down to color head, this is where you can affect specific colors, and say you wanted it to be a little bit more yellow, you could bring it this way, or if you wanted it to be more blue, you could bring it that way. And so there's a lot of control right here, not as much as you would have down here on the hue versus hue, hue versus sat, and hue versus luminance curves over here, but you do still have a little bit of adjustments that you can make in the Dehancer plugin itself, which make it nice for just kind of getting that effect and color that you want. If you hit this gang right here, it'll affect all of them at once, so just keep that in mind. We're going to reset all of these, and I am going to make it just a little bit yellow right there, and then add some magenta back in. So you can also change the shadow tone, so kind of here in our shadows, if I wanted to make this a little bit more orange, I could go here, and then midtones, kind of the same effect. If I want to make it a little bit orange, highlights, you can kind of adjust how those look, and then that's pretty much all I'm going to mess with here on the color head. So down here in film grain, this is really where we're going to get our film look. In my opinion, film grain is what really brings together the film look, and you're not going to have a whole lot of film look without your film grain. 8mm is going to be your most intense grain, and you can also adjust it right here, but 65 is going to be your least amount. And I actually prefer a little bit less. I might even go 35, ISO 50, and then just bring it down, because you want it to be noticeable, but you also don't want it to be overpowering and like look completely fake, because that just takes away all the attention from the actual video. And so I don't think that's terrible. I might just increase that a little bit up to 20. Before, after, it just adds a nice little effect to our footage. So below that, we're going to go to halation, and halation is a really cool effect. If you don't know what it is, halation is what happens when there is bright parts of the image that are kind of contrasting with the darker parts. And so what it's going to do is when I turn this on, it is going to make a red kind of glow around some of those highlights. So this number right here is a good example, because as you can see, if I do the 8, which is going to be the most, there is a drastic red glow around that color, around that white right there, and that happens due to halation. So this is a really cool feature that I think will make your footage look a lot more like film. And so obviously we can't overdo it, because it just becomes really distracting and noticeable, and it looks fake. And so I'm going to go ahead and do 35, Super 35, and then decrease this a little bit. If you click this mask mode, you can actually see what parts of the image are being affected. So say we go to Super 8 and crank that all the way up, you'll see that all these parts of the image are going to be affected. And then when you turn that off, you'll see that those are the glowing parts. I'm going to bring this down to 35 though, and kind of go here. there's not a ton of halation here, and you can see that it only affects specific parts, which I really like. And some softwares kind of just affect the whole image, and it makes it look really just fake and cheap in my opinion. And so I like that you can add it where it's a very precise place that it adds it, and it just doesn't do it over the whole footage. I will mention that Davinci Resolve does have a halation effect built in. If I search halation, it will pop up, but I am on the free version of Resolve, and so if I try to drag this onto my clip, I am going to get the studio pop-up that says I cannot use it. And so that is one thing to consider. I do realize that the Dehancer plugin is an expensive plugin, and so you may just rather buy Davinci Resolve and have halation built in. But from what I've seen online, I think the Dehancer plugin does a really good job of targeting specific areas of the image for halation rather than just blanketing the whole thing with a glow, which is what I've seen some people complain about on Davinci Resolve. So moving down, we're going to go ahead and continue with this color grade. And we are on the bloom area. This is another great aspect of film that I think can kind of bring the whole thing together. And so just to put it on 8mm and make it super obvious what we're doing here, this is bloom. This is where it's going to make your highlights a dreamy, soft kind of look. And so if you do mask mode, you can see the areas that is directly affecting, which I think is pretty cool. But obviously we don't want this crazy of an effect. That's kind of a lot going on before, and after. I do like how that glow is affecting the image though. I'm probably going to go to 16mm and turn that down just a little bit. I like the effect that it's having here in the background, and it's not very sharp, which is actually what I want, because film was not super sharp like today's cameras are, so I kind of want to replicate that. And I think this bloom kind of helps do a good job of just making the whole image seem a little bit more dreamy and a little bit more appealing. So next is film damage. This is going to be the little scratches and dust marks that you're going to see in the film. So I'm going to put this on 8mm and turn it all the way up just to make it obvious what we're talking about here. And I'm not sure if you can see that very well, but these black marks and scratches that are on the footage, those were not originally there on the initial footage. And so if we kind of go forward and backwards in this clip, you'll see those appear frequently. They're easy to see, especially here in the sky. But I'm going to turn that down to 35mm and turn that up to maybe 10. And then I'm going to turn this jitter off because I don't really want it to jitter around a whole lot. I think just the little sparkles and particles that kind of fly up are noticeable enough, but they're not distracting from the overall footage itself. So we're going to go ahead and move on from that. You can see before and after if you watch closely, but we're going to go ahead and go into film breath. And this isn't the easiest to see in a clip like this because it's stationary, or because it's not stationary, but film breath is going to kind of move around your colors and make it where your colors shift a little bit. And I do not want that at all because I want my colors to look a certain way. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. But gate weave is going to be where the overall image is going to kind of wiggle back and forth. And this was caused because on old film cameras, if the film wasn't completely fastened down, it would cause the whole image to kind of do a back and forth motion. I'm just going to go ahead and turn that off and not mess with that right now. This overscan right here is probably one of the best tools for making it look like a vintage film picture. I really like this overscan tool, and I'm a big fan of the different presets you can use. So probably my favorite right here, make sure you enable it. My favorite is probably going to be the 8mm. As you'll notice, this is a popular one for Instagram and social medias in general because it gives you that nostalgic look. And a thing I really like about this is it's animated. So as you'll see right here, as it's moving, it's kind of flashing around. And that's just a lot better of an effect than you sometimes get on overlays that you find on the internet that are not customized at all. So there's a lot of different things you can do. There's a Polaroid one that's pretty cool. Super 35, Standard 16, or the Super 8, which I think is my favorite. A lot of different settings you can change. You can make it more rounded, less rounded, and you can even make it a horizontal layout. But we're going to stick to vertical, kind of keep that how it is. Not sure what the exposure does right there. I think it affects around here, just kind of the outline thing on there. But you can change the scale, so if you want to make it bigger, you can do that. If you want to zoom out on your clip, if your clip got resized, you can do that. I'm just going to go ahead and leave it how it is. I kind of like the framing. I will, if I do want to adjust this, I recommend just going into your actual edit tab down here and zooming into your clip that way. I feel like that's just a lot easier than messing with those tools. But again, those tools are in there in the plugin, built in if you need them. They're just a little bit harder to mess with because they get a little bit laggy when you have everything on here. So the last thing I want to say on this tab is there's what's called static gate. And so if you look real closely up here, that's not moving. Your border is going to stay the same. But if I unclick that, it's going to shift kind of along, which in my opinion is slightly distracting to the overall image. So I'm going to go ahead and turn that off. And then of course you can flip the size. So pretty cool right there. I think it adds a huge aspect, especially when you look at the clip before and after. It really helps you focus in on your clip, and I really like it a lot. So one of the last things I'm going to talk about is the vignette, and you can apply a vignette. It's a pretty basic just vignette as you would expect, and then you can kind of adjust the size, aspect ratio, feather. There's what's called the mask mode, so you can kind of see what you're dealing with. And so let me enable this so I can see what I'm doing. If you bring the feather down, and then you can see the size, you can adjust the shape like that. Bring your feather back up, and then you can kind of play with this until you really get something that you like. But that is just another feature that they added in that's pretty nice that you can use. So another thing, like I said earlier, is the clipping indication. None of my things are clipping in the image, so that's a positive sign. But it just allows you to be able to track that in real time and see if any of your highlights or shadows are clipping, and be able to adjust that while you're doing it in real time. They also have false color. I don't really know how to use that, so I'm not going to say too much about that. But they do have a output, so if you want to kind of bring down the effect that you added, you can adjust that. With the overscan and the cropping, it's going to look weird if I bring it down at all, so I'm just going to leave it there. And what's really cool is you can actually create a LUT out of the look that you generated. So if you are a fan of your look that you created, then you can actually go in and create a LUT out of it and apply it to any footage that you have. So I thought that was super cool. I'm really happy with this overall image. I think that the look of this may be a bit oversaturated for a film look, but I am really just happy with how this came out, and I'm excited to continue using Dehancer to just improve my color grading, improve the look of my footage, and really help with storytelling, because I think that these tools can go a long way for you, especially if you are new to the color grading scene, and some of these Davinci settings can just be a little bit confusing. The layout of some of these items is hard to find, and if you don't know what you're doing, it can be hard. Whereas over here on Dehancer, you got a pretty straightforward setup of everything, and you can just work your way through all the way until you get to the overscan and vignette tools, and go from a original image shot in log on S-Log3 to a film look that, in my opinion, looks pretty good. I'm really pleased with the overall look of this footage. So yeah, that is pretty much how I do my process of color grading my footage to look like film, and I think it looks quite a bit better than a typical Rec 709 conversion. There's a lot of different things you can add to this, but this is the look that I ended with, and I am very pleased with how it came out. So that right there is pretty much the workflow that I would use to color grade my footage to look like film, and I'm really actually pretty surprised with how much you can do just with the built-in plugin. And it's not just a gimmick that you throw on top that does it for you. Every single setting is very adjustable, and I think it's really cool how you can tweak each one of those settings to make it look how you want, or just, you know, go off of a film profile that's kind of baked in. Either one is really cool, and I just like the flexibility that the Dehancer plugin offers. And as you can see right there, it was a really quick and easy way to go about grading my footage to get the overall look that I was wanting. All right, so real briefly, I just want to mention the mobile app that Dehancer has to offer. Now, this is going to be a pretty condensed version of the desktop version for the plugins for Davinci and Lightroom, but it is a pretty powerful app considering it is on a phone. And I think it'd be great if you just want to do stuff for social media on here. Just take some photos with your phone, edit them real quick, and post them. So it's a super convenient way to do that. And I'm just going to show you a brief overview of the UI and kind of the capabilities of this app, and then we'll go ahead and move on with the rest of the video. All right, so taking a look at the mobile app right here. When I open the app up, you can just see all your photos and videos right there. You can just scroll through and click one. So first I'm going to show you real quick just like the video side of things. I'm going to go ahead and click on this video, and then as you can see, you can click last edit. So if you had already edited something previously, you can just apply that, or you can go through all the presets that they have to offer. As you can see, it is actually affecting our image, and then we can just press play for videos. So it's just a video I had yesterday, but it'll actually just apply whatever preset you want. So it's pretty cool. It actually works really good, surprisingly. Just for this being a mobile app, I was not expecting this level of just presets and things. But as you can see, that actually looks really good. This is just iPhone footage too, and it's actually doing a really good job of applying those things without completely just destroying the image. So say you just wanted to export it with this preset on there, just export. You can export with full quality. You can pick the bit rate and just choose what quality you want and the frame rate. So I thought that was pretty cool that they offered all those things, and that's how you would do a video. If we want to go back and do a photo, we'll just go with this photo, raw photo. I could, since I had just applied those edits, I could go over here and press last edits, and it'll be whatever you exported last, but this is the original. And so say I wanted to go back over to the Cine Still 50D or the 800T, it'll apply those edits, and as you can see, it applies things as like halation, and then you're gonna have halation there, some bloom, and so there's just some really cool effects. Say you want to start with a preset like the Fujifilm Eternal Vivid 500, and then you want to edit things, you can go over here, and they're all going to be at the bottom. So if you want to crop, change your exposure, films, developer, all the same tools we just used in Davinci, you're going to be able to apply those here on the mobile app, color head, all the different things, film grain, and it's just a really cool way to just add all these things right from your phone. And if you're kind of in a run and gun situation and you want to do this on the go, you just export, save to gallery, it'll export, it'll be right in your photo album, and then you can go and upload straight to social media. So now to the pros and cons of this software. So obviously the biggest con to this software, if you have looked into it at all, is the price. Now it's going to come in at around $449, and that is extremely expensive for someone who may be just getting into the content creation or color grading world, and you don't have $400 just to spend on a software that you may or may not know how to use. Now I will say it is a great software, but at the same time, if you're someone who's really looking to up their workflow and get a lot better at video editing, then I don't think this is necessarily the software I would go to first. There are a lot better softwares like the Davinci Resolve Pro version that do include some of these features like film grain, halation, bloom, that will allow you to work on that aspect of your videography and color grading, but also have a bunch of other editing features that you can use aside from just the film aspects that Davinci Resolve has to offer. So the biggest pro in my opinion is just the simplicity of the Dehancer software, and just because it's simple does not mean it's not powerful. As you saw, it took me about 10 minutes to go from a completely flat image that was shot in a log profile to what in my opinion is a really good looking vintage kind of look, and it didn't really take me very long. I just was able to go down the list of tools that they have and just tweak each one to my liking, and It's just a really simple software that allows you to get a lot done in a short amount of time. Plus, with that LUT feature at the end, you can easily replicate this across all your footage and get a very similar look across everything you're doing. So that's a really cool feature in my opinion. So ultimately, it will be up to you to decide if you think this software is worth it for you or not. I don't know if it has enough value to justify the price of $450, because at that price you can buy a lot of camera gear, Davinci Resolve Pro, different softwares, and it's just a lot of money to put into something that you may or may not use on a daily basis. And so ultimately that would have been the deciding factor for me not to get it, was the price. But now that I do have it and I am able to use it in my footage, I am really happy with the results I'm getting, and definitely wouldn't be able to achieve these same results if I was just using the Davinci Resolve free version like I have for the past 2 years. Thank you guys for making it all the way till the end. I really appreciate you watching this whole video. If you found the video useful or helpful to you in any way, then drop a like button down below and consider subscribing so you don't miss some future videos. I'm going to try to do some vlogs, some more tutorial videos, reviews, anything related to sports and videography. I'm going to be putting videos out on the channel, so make sure you subscribe so you don't miss them. Thank you guys for watching, and I'll catch you next time.